American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tellustrate video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today.
What time is it? Game time! It's gonna be special. They gonna talk about this forever.
Welcome to American Football Stories.
Puts his head down, crashes and spins, and dives. Touchdown!
Bringing together the many perspectives that make up college football in the NFL.
Football is one of the greatest sports ever invented.
From players and coaches.
Believe, baby, believe, baby.
Hey, we playing to win right here, fellas.
To the front office and scouts.
The public is finally beginning to catch up, but they don't even know half the truth.
Us against the world, let's get it.
Your hosts, Robert Parker and Nick Knudsen, bring you American Football Stories.
Welcome to the American Football Stories podcast brought to you by Coach Paint. Today is January 18th, 2021. My name is Nick Knudsen. My co-host is Robert Parker. Today we're going to discuss the NFL Divisional Round Playoff matchups from this weekend. And Rob, this is usually my favorite weekend of football in the year. You're down to the final 8 in the NFL. There's usually not a bad matchup in this group. Like maybe one game might be a mismatch, but usually all 4 games are really solid, super competitive football. And you're seeing the best 8 teams in the NFL play. So there's usually an awesome weekend, but I think I like Super Wildcard Weekend better. That's what I got out of this weekend.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nick. I definitely like Super Wildcard Weekend just because of the extra game. I just like you said, normally when you get down to the Elite 8, you're getting the best teams out of, the NFL. But, just having that extra game on, for some reason, it just kind of felt like the day just went smoothly, just pretty much how they was transitioning throughout the day. And I really didn't like the time slots this weekend for the games. How did you like the time slots in regards to that?
Well, that was part of what was off for me. I mean, for me, it worked fine because I planned my day around it. So I got out in the morning and I did things, and then I came back and watched the games in the afternoons and evenings. But it was weird. It just, it's starting to feel like that transition at the end of every football season when you get less and less games. But usually that NFL, AFC, NFC championship weekend is when you have to wait till 3:00 for the games. But, we're getting less and less football. What can you do? The NFL is kind of in a bind on that. I mean, they're not going to give up a primetime slot, right?
Yeah. Why would they?
Yeah. Well, so let's start. We start Saturday afternoon in Lambeau Field. A little bit of snow, a little bit of cold weather, but the Rams, they did everything they could to keep this one competitive in the second half, but too much Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. They're never a good thing to go up against when your offense is struggling. I give a ton of credit to Jared Goff for battling through his thumb injury. I think this is the type of thing that probably would have kept him out for about a month or so, maybe a month plus in the regular season, and yet he comes back after 12 days after surgery to lead Los Angeles into the second round and really play a pretty decent game. And I think on the offensive side of the ball for the Rams, you saw a young core that should get them back to the playoffs for years to come with rookies. Cam Akers going for 18 carries on 90 yards on 18 carries and a touchdown. Van Jefferson, 6 receptions, 46 yards and a touchdown. Both of those guys stepped up. But this LA team, unlike the LA team that went to the Super Bowl a few years ago, we really saw their success hinge on the defense. And unfortunately, they couldn't get it done on a cold day in Lambeau here. My big notes that really broke the game open for the Packers: 2 big plays in the second half, 60-yard run by Aaron Jones to open the second half that ended up setting up a touchdown, and a 58-yard touchdown pass in the middle of the fourth quarter to Allen Lazard that really put the game out of reach. Green Bay advances to the NFC title game. We'll talk about their opponent shortly. But, Rob, Packers just a little too good for the Rams. That's really all you got to say. I mean, not a bad performance by LA in this one.
Yeah, just like you said, Nick, you kind of take your hat off to Jared Goff for battling through that thumb injury. And, the loss of Cooper Kupp, he didn't play in that game. So that really hurt, even though Vance Jefferson kind of, stepped in and played really well. But that's just another weapon that they were down on the offense side of the ball. And, this Green Bay team, everyone talks about their offense, the offense side of the ball, but their defense is really, really good. So when you have a complete team and playing on both sides of the ball, I think you're going to have these type of wins throughout the playoffs. And I really like Green Bay moving forward with Aaron Rodgers. It really seems like he's clicking on all cylinders. He's having fun out there. Devontae Adams is unguardable. And not only is he's unguardable one-on-one, but it just seems like they scheme up ways to get him a ball, get him free, whether they're putting him in the slot, whether they're motioning him around. So that was pretty tough for that Rams defense. And, Aaron Donald to not really play majority of the snaps on the defense side of the ball for the Rams really affected that team as well.
Yeah, you saw his emotion on the sideline after the game, and you really felt for the guy. I mean, it really does suck when those guys, a guy like that works so hard and he gets to that spot and he can't really leave his all on the field. I mean, that really sucks how he was hampered. You'd like to see these guys play at full strength, but that's part of the game. It's part of the playoffs, especially. So I'm gonna kick it back to LA real quick. Interesting year for them. We saw the Super Bowl hangover. That happens a lot to teams that lose the Super Bowl, but this was a team we viewed as an offensive juggernaut during that season. And then they struggled on the offensive side and they needed to make some adjustments. And to me, I think this year, Sean McVay proved that he's going to be a head coach for a long, long time because he showed the ability to completely reshape what his team does around a completely different side of the ball. I mean, just he went from being an offensive team with a decent defense to like really a defensive team, and that got them to the playoffs. And there were moments this season that the Rams had some ugly losses. They didn't always look great all the time, but you have to think this offense with all these young pieces that they're going to continue to take steps and improve. And the defense, it's exciting to watch the development there. But one thing you got to question going forward is how are they going to adjust to the loss of defensive coordinator Brandon Staley? He was just named the coach of the LA Chargers. Not exactly moving across town, just just swapping a different side of the building, I imagine. He's going to be coaching the Chargers next year. Young hire there for the Chargers, but pretty disappointing for the Rams. You probably thought you can keep him for another year or two before he'd get that job.
Yeah, devastating loss. I mean, you're probably going to have the majority of the players there for the Rams on the defense side of the ball. At least with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, those guys are locked up, and it really seems like you have a lot of young guys on that defense where they're kind of developing into a consistent player year in year out. So if the Rams and Sean McVay can kind of keep the defensive scheme the same, and Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey can kind of play up to their level that they normally play at, I don't think you see a big drop off from this defense. But at the end of the day, I think Sean McVay just adapts to the situation and just, opens it up on the offense side of the ball. So maybe this team won't be, ruled by the defense. Maybe a shift back to the offense. That's what I'm kind of expecting when you have a type of loss like that from a defensive coordinator position or offensive coordinator position. So the Rams are probably just flip sides and become more of an offensive team moving forward.
Green Bay, we talked about their offense, but their defense was fantastic in this one. They held the Rams to under 250 yards of total offense. And again, a lot of that you got to think a healthy Jared Goff is going to put up a little better numbers than what we saw, even though he was efficient, 21 to 27 passing, but only managed to rack up 148 total yards pass it, 174. You take away some for the sacks and everything, but 50 plays for LA on the offensive side of the ball. That's not exactly the classic Rams offense we're used to. Credit to the Packers defense, who this game was in reach for the Rams into the fourth quarter. So the Packers defense certainly stepped up and made enough plays to really put this one away for Green Bay.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, just like you mentioned earlier, you have Cam Akers, the rookie who actually had a tremendous season down the stretch after he got kind of healthy. So the Rams were kind of sticking in there, and Goff did stick it out, just playing through that thumb injury. But this Packers defense is definitely is really good. It's up there. They have some playmakers on that side of the ball, and I think moving forward, they're going to have to rely on their defense a little bit more. So I think this performance that the Green Bay defense put out is probably going to be a performance we can see them put out moving forward if they were to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and they're knocking on the doorstep there. Home game at Lambeau Field. We've seen them lose at Lambeau a couple times there in the playoffs, but we've also seen them convert and get there too. So gotta like their chances playing at home next week. Baltimore went into Buffalo on Saturday night. And did you expect 17-3 as the final score?
I did not. I
Yeah.
expected this game to go. I expected this game to go under, Nick, but I definitely didn't see a 17-3 final score.
Is that even possible in the modern day NFL?
It seems like it's not possible, but when you have a matchup like these two teams where they play really, really good defense, and Baltimore wants to run the ball, and Josh Allen really couldn't get it together on the offense side of the ball as far as connecting with his receivers and everything like we've seen throughout the season. So it was kind of a physical back and forth game, hit you in the mouth.
Yeah,
old school football, and that's the games that you're probably going to see majority of the time when it comes to the playoffs with the cold weather and everything like that. So I actually enjoyed a 17-3 game. So I actually enjoyed it.
I mean, this Bills offense, they gained 220 yards of offense here. Is shocking. I mean, they've been explosive this year. I mean, didn't stop Stephon Diggs from racking up 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. He's still putting up his numbers, but I think what was impressive with this game is the Bills. They showed they're more than just that pretty offense. They can get down in the dirt. They could trade some blows and win ugly. I mean, and that's even after the game, Josh Allen was talking about, hey, it's the playoffs. Win ugly as long as you win. Who cares? And he's completely right about it. But you had a 3-3 tie at the half. Josh Allen leads the Bills on an 11-play, 66-yard drive to open the third quarter to punch it in for a 10-3 lead for Buffalo. This was a turning point in the game, though. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, they answer right back. They drive all the way down the field, take up nearly 9 minutes of clock. But on 3rd and goal from the Buffalo 9, Bills cornerback Taron Johnson, he undercuts a route in the end zone, takes the interception 101 yards for a pick six, and it sent the city of Buffalo into a frenzy. Hey, this is super exciting times if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, but that had to be a pretty cool moment on Saturday night.
Yeah, it really was. When Lamar Jackson threw that interception, threw the pick six, 101 yards, it was a stat out there saying that was his first red zone interception.
Yeah.
It was just like it just came at the most inopportune time because they were actually putting together a great drive, and it seemed like they were going to go in and score. And then they had the turmoil earlier in the games where Justin Tucker just couldn't connect on the field goal. I don't know about you, Nick, but I've never seen a field goal kicker miss 2 field goals and hit the left post and hit the right post. I don't know. It just seems like it was kind of weird, and it was just one of those games that wasn't going to go into the Baltimore's favor.
I don't know if I've seen Justin Tucker miss 2 field goals
in the same game.
I don't know. I don't know if I've seen that before. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, the thing as a competitor, and this is where some fans sit around and they just go, "Oh, you got to make that. You got to make those kicks. You got to do that." Man, sometimes as a competitor, I mean, hell, even if you play video games, sometimes it's just the ball doesn't bounce your way. It's not your day. And Baltimore, they made plenty of plays to stay right in. I mean, think about that. Justin Tucker makes 2 field goals. That's 6 more points right there, right? 17-9. Lamar Jackson, I don't think he was forcing that interception with Taron Johnson. I just think he didn't see him, right? What would you think about that interception? And then shockingly, Taron Johnson took that thing back 101 yards because he ran up the middle of the field. And I think some of the Ravens weren't hustling on that play because I think they thought he was going to get tackled. And then all of a sudden, everything picked up as he broke through. I don't know. I couldn't see the back end of the play, but there's no way you can't tell me Lamar Jackson can't get to the sideline with his speed.
Yeah, I tell you what, Baltimore wished they had a DK Metcalf on their team. But unfortunately, I'm right with you, Nick. I don't think he forced the throw to Mark Andrews. I just think, Taron Johnson did a good job of disguising the coverage, and he kind of undercut the route. And
Yeah.
I don't think Lamar Jackson ever saw him. I think he was just kind of locked in on his target. And then, Johnson just kind of undercut the route and stepped in and took it, 101 yards back to the house. So with that being said, moving forward, I love this Baltimore team, the way it's constructed on the offensive side and the defense side of the ball. But I tell you what, Lamar Jackson needs a true wide receiver one. If we want to see Lamar Jackson develop as a passer, I think you kind of have to get him a true wide receiver one. That's exactly what you've seen on the other side of the ball with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. I mean, I know it's not a lot of Stephon Diggs out there that you can kind of go get. He's kind of, in his own category, in his own, in that top echelon of wide receivers. But if you can kind of get someone that can develop into a Stephon Diggs, I think, that's what Lamar Jackson needs in order for this, Ravens team to make, that jump on the offense side of the ball, because I think they have all the pieces on the defense side of the ball. And, Baltimore is always going to be there year in and year out. It's a great organization. They draft well. So I think moving forward, that is one position that they have to beef up, is to kind of get Lamar Jackson some playmakers on the outside.
Yeah. And really, I'm not putting a three like this. This was a 3-point outing with plenty of mistakes. You got the pick six in the end zone, the couple of missed field goals. I mean, this is easily, the score could have almost easily been flipped in this game. So, history's written by the winners. We'll remember Buffalo playing well and everything. But I mean, Buffalo scored one touchdown on the offensive side of the ball. It wasn't like this game was dominant. This was not a dominant victory. Okay. This was a hard fought battle. Baltimore had their shots. It just didn't come through on this day. It's that simple. But I want to talk about the Bills, Rob. First time since 1993, Buffalo's headed to the AFC Championship game. Who was the quarterback and their opponent in the AFC title game in 1993?
Wow. That's a good one. That's a good did you know right there. I'm blanking right now. I have no clue.
Well, they played the Kansas City Chiefs. Who was the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs in 1993?
Oh wow, that kind of makes me a little bit more confident in my answer I'm about to give you. I'm gonna go with the legend Joe Montana.
Joe Montana, the Kansas City Chiefs. The last time the Buffalo Bills were in the AFC title game. If you need some context on how long it's been, so they'll be going to Kansas City this week with the win after we saw Kansas City pull off the Cleveland victory yesterday. But yeah, last time they were in the AFC title game, Kansas City Chiefs, Joe Montana. So it's kind of interesting that we're seeing, similar Kansas City's in that AFC title game again. And we got a Joe Montana-like story with Tom Brady over in Tampa Bay, going up to Green Bay next week. So still there. But anyway, let's cut over the Chiefs. Congratulations to Buffalo. That's awesome win. You just got to be. I'm always happy to see new blood in the hunt for the Super Bowl. And in Buffalo, it's been a really fun story this year. And I'm glad some fans got to go to the games too. And they got a couple playoff games up in Orchard Park. That's awesome. Awesome story up in Buffalo. And you got to think that team isn't going anywhere anytime soon. They're going to be at least a playoff team for the next several years, hopefully. Cleveland at Kansas City, the Brownies, they were game. They were game here. They lost 22-17, but Baker Mayfield, if I told you Baker Mayfield was barely going to cross the 200-yard threshold passing, and yet the Cleveland Browns could almost do the unthinkable and knock off the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium, you would have told me I was crazy. But there was two big reasons the Brownies had a shot. The first half was played at a really slow pace for Kansas City, unusually slow, and Cleveland managed to keep it a two-possession game heading into the locker room. Pat Mahomes left the game in the second half. Is the second reason Pat Mahomes leaves the game in the second half. Enter Chad Henne. And as a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, I see that as a death sentence. But it turns out, after struggling a little bit, Chad Henne ends up being the key to this game. I absolutely applaud Andy Reid for his I just straight up called it a balls move, going for it on 4th and 1 at midfield to close the game out against Cleveland with Chad Henne as your quarterback, rolling out to the right and hitting that little out route to Tyreek Hill, and we certainly see that play run a lot with Pat Mahomes. That's not an uncommon play. It's a pretty comfortable play for that offense, but still, big play in a big moment. And Andy Reid, he's got his Super Bowl ring. He doesn't care anymore. He's like, I'll call whatever I want. You can't question me anymore. I got my ring. So I thought that was an awesome call by Kansas City, but I want to go back, Rob, to the one play that I think really was the game changer. And Rashad Higgins is going into the end zone, extends the ball. He gets hit so clearly, helmet to helmet, right? And ends up fumbling out of the end zone. But why was that not a penalty? That should have been a penalty, right?
Yeah, just hearing all the talk when that actual play happened, everyone was saying, how dumb the rule is, where you fumble and it goes out the end zone and it's a touchback and the other team gets the ball. A lot of people were saying, oh, it was clear targeting. Why was the flag thrown or anything like that? It was definitely one of those bang bang plays where you don't see it initially, and if you go back, do you throw the target in? I tell you what, I'm pretty sure if this play happened in college, this has definitely been a target and an ejection for the player that made that tackle.
But it's still a rule that you can't hit helmet to helmet in pro football. It's not targeting and they throw you out, but it is a personal foul, right?
Yeah, I mean, personally, to me, it was one of those bang bang plays. You want to throw the flag, but at the end of the day, I kind of understand it. I'm kind of caught in the middle with this. Yeah, it was helmet to helmet.
You think it was bang bang, or do you think it was obviously helmet to helmet?
I think it was bang bang. Rashard Higgins was kind of running full speed, going to the pylon, diving. And it just seemed like Sorensen just kind of like, hey, let me just try to like stop him, and it's just like, okay, his helmet, he kind of led with the helmet, but I don't think he tried to aim at his head.
But it's not about intent though. It's not about intent on that. He did. I think he intentionally did it? No. But the fact is the helmet hit the helmet, and that's been a penalty in every other NFL game this season. So that's why I just see it as an inconsistent application of the rule. That's either a penalty or it's not. And the only reason I'm hammering this is because if you don't call the penalty, Cleveland loses the ball. It goes out of the back of the end zone, and Kansas City gets a ball. That's a turnover in a game where you can't afford to lose possessions if you're the Cleveland Browns. And it's absolutely the difference in the game, looking back on it. So does the NFL have something to answer for on this one? You don't seem to think so.
I don't seem to think so. And one of the reasons why we see Bill Belichick kind of harp on this, like when his runners get to the goal line, don't put the ball out, because we know that's the rule where if you fumble the ball and it goes out. So I think, it was more so of like, hey, you trying to make the extra effort to get in the touchdown. It's the playoffs. You want to do everything you need to do to get in the end zone. But at the end of the day, you have to protect the ball. And, if Rashard Higgins protected the ball, I don't think we would be having this conversation right now, because I think Cleveland goes in to punch it in at the 1 yard line and ultimately probably come out to win that game, especially if Patrick Mahomes, gets banged up in the second half like he did. So I think, you have to protect the ball. I just don't like seeing teams getting bailed out on a call per se. So I think that's kind of the reason why I'm leaning, one way versus the other.
Right. So you don't like that the Chiefs got bailed out on a call.
That's
That's what I just heard. I'm going to just go with that, and I'll take that as an acceptable answer, because the Browns got a little screwed on that. Not a little screwed. They got a lot of screwed on that call, because it's a stupid rule, but it is the stupid rule is the stupid rule. And I think that absolutely should have been helmet to helmet contact. It's called all the time in the NFL, and I can't believe that call was missed. I cannot believe it. I mean, the back of the end zone thing, that's just the rule. I don't know what people are complaining about that. That's been the rule forever. The helmet to helmet thing, though, I thought it was clear. And it wasn't intentional. Sorensen actually hell of a play on the hustle to even make that a play. And you know what? That's why you hustle. That's why you stick your head in there and at least try to make the stop, even if you get the penalty flag thrown on you, because maybe sometimes the ref will eat the flag on that. But I think the best thing to come out of this game is the Chad Henne ends up closing the deal for. I mean, think about it. You had Chad Henne playing the Cleveland Browns for a right to go to the AFC title game. If I told you that storyline 3 years ago, you would have laughed at me. Like, that's insane. That's absolutely insane that scenario actually happened in this world. But I love Mahomes' hashtag on Twitter after the win. He tweeted, he had Kevin Garnett screaming in his Celtics jersey after the NBA Finals. Anything is possible. I thought that was a hell of a hashtag after the game.
Yeah, it really was. And I tell you what, everyone talking about the big time play call of Andy Reid, where Chad Henne rolls out and throws a little quick out to Tyreek Hill. But I tell you what, that run that he had prior to that throw set that up. Because I'm telling you what, if Chad Henne didn't get close to the sticks, I can definitely see, Kansas City punting the ball back and maybe Cleveland Browns getting one more shot at it. But he had to go for it. It was a ballsy call, but Chad Henne definitely set that up with his grit and determination to get that first down on that run. But just going back to that Cleveland Browns play with Rashard Higgins.
Are you ready to admit you were wrong about that and it was a penalty?
You got to protect the ball, dude. You got to protect the ball.
Wait, I thought you were going to admit that you're wrong about it and that it was a penalty.
You got to protect the ball. You got to protect the ball.
Well, good for the good old little Kansas City Chiefs for getting a break on that call. They needed it. Man. Well, anyway, Kansas City, Buffalo. I'm sorry, Cleveland. Rob's not going to stick up for you, but I've been on your side all year. I just want Rob, he'll come in and he'll go. He's in and out with you guys. I can't help you there, Cleveland. Sorry. Hey, look, though, on the other hand, not that Cleveland and Buffalo would have been a bad game, but we're getting an A+ AFC Championship game with Buffalo going to Kansas City next week. And I don't see any scenario where Mahomes is not playing. Do you?
Yeah, I just don't see Mahomes not playing. Honestly, just looking at that hit that he suffered, it really wasn't helmet to helmet. It really wasn't like he hit his head on the turf, kind of like we've seen with Lamar Jackson. It was kind of funky, kind of hit where he got twisted up, maybe whiplash. And that's why when he got up wobbly, I was just like, whoa, you kind of see that tackle happen, consistently throughout the league. But for some reason, it just seemed like, he kind of got, whiplash and that's what happened. But once again, I tell you what, I just don't see Chad Henne going in and beating the Buffalo Bills if Patrick Mahomes is not expected to go. But I think Mahomes will be ready to go. And I think we're going to have a hell of a AFC Championship game.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. Can't wait for that one. That's going to be the nightcap. That's going to be the 6:40 kickoff next Sunday, Buffalo at Kansas City. Man, I hope we get snow in both of these games. You get cold weather, 2 cold weather games. I love it. Good locations for some championship football. All right, final divisional playoff game of the day. Tampa Bay goes into New Orleans, and for the first time in 3 matchups, ends up on the winning side of this thing, 30-20 over the Saints. And this game was all about who made the least amount of mistakes. Because in all honesty, I know all week you talk about Tom Brady and Drew Brees, but it looked like a couple of 40-plus-year-old quarterbacks out there, Rob. It wasn't particularly solid football on either side. Before the game, Jay Glazer, who he's usually extremely accurate in his reporting, drops that he firmly believes this is going to be Drew Brees' last game in the Superdome, because if the Saints would have won, they would have gone to Green Bay. So a lot of speculation before the game, heavy speculation about Drew Brees' retirement before the game. So you're potentially watching Drew Brees' last game as a New Orleans Saint and an NFL football player, and he did not go out on top. I'll say that. 1 touchdown pass, 3 interceptions, and those 3 INTs along with the fumble for the Saints, coupled with 2 big holding calls on punt return, or a couple big holding call, or there's only 1 big holding call on punt return that called back a touchdown. That really kept the Saints down throughout the day. They're just mistake prone here. The Bucks came in. I thought they had a solid game plan. They stuck around, but they really were getting it done. I thought they did a better job. They weren't particularly dominant on any side of the ball, but I thought you and I both said this at different points. Whenever Leonard Fournette got the ball in his hands, good things ended up happening for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it really did. Not only Leonard Fournette, but Ronald Jones as well. It really seemed like, Tampa Bay was going to emphasize the run because it seemed like the Saints was playing those two deep safeties. And, they were kind of baiting, Tampa to kind of run the ball, and Tampa actually did it. Leonard Fournette ended the game with 17 carries for 63 yards. I mean, it's not a huge day at numbers wise, but I think those 17 carries, I think that's the key thing. Tom Brady, just like you said earlier, it really looked like two 40-year-old quarterbacks playing, but at the end of the day, it was just these defenses. They really stood up to the test. Marshawn Lattimore, that matchup that was going on with Mike Evans, I think that was one of the most, pivotal matchups in the game that, we were seeing play. And then on top of that, you had Janoris Jenkins and C.J. Gardner-Johnson kind of matching up with Marquise Goodwin and Antonio Brown. So I thought those were the key matchups on the defense side of the ball for the Saints. But one of the players that stood out to me was Devin White. I really think he kind of, put his footprint on this game, and, just running sideline to sideline, making tackles, just, playing in coverage and getting that interception. So I really think that, Devin White actually put his footprints on this game. And this Tampa Bay team it showed you that Tom Brady doesn't have to play, exceptionally well in order for them to get the win, especially if the defense can kind of hold up. So I like this Tampa Bay team moving forward.
Is there a better linebacker combo in the league than Devin White and Levante David?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say. That linebacker combination can do it all. They can rush the passer. They can run sideline to sideline. They can drop back in coverage. They can play the run. So I don't know if there is another complete linebacker core like these two guys.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the interceptions too. Devin White, big return, 28 yards. Sean Murphy bunting, 36-yard return. And even there was a third interception. I think it was caught along the sideline. That's why it wasn't a big return, but Mike Edwards had one too. Just not the way you want to see Drew Brees go out. Really, if you're a football fan, I think Drew Brees accomplished something difficult in his career. He remained highly likable to really everybody. Does anybody hate Drew Brees that you know of? Like, I mean, people hate Tom Brady. There are people that, they get tired. They roll their eyes at Peyton Manning and all the commercials and everything. Brett Favre, there are plenty of people after the retirement fiasco that had things to say about Brett Favre. All highly likable guys, by the way. And even Brady, as much as people don't like the Patriots, and I mean, what's Brady done that, like, he's not a guy that look, I'm not a fan of those Patriots teams, and I mean, even seeing Brady still winning, I understand people. There's just Tom Brady fatigue in general, but dude's a great guy. But plenty of people don't like him. No, I don't know anyone that doesn't like Drew Brees, and for him to go out like that, it wasn't just the 3 interceptions. I mean, we saw him get ball tipped at the line of scrimmage. JPP jumped up and got one. Like, it just kind of feels like it's time to go. And like, I almost don't want to see him come back. And I don't want to remember Drew Brees like this.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think one play that was indicative of Drew Brees, kind of retiring and kind of hanging up was, the trick play where Jameis Winston, threw the ball deep downfield.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the narrative that surrounded Drew Brees, is that, he doesn't have, that arm strength where he can kind of, attack the defense downfield. Everything is kind of, dink and dunk like Alvin Kamara, and kind of, in the middle of the field with Michael Thomas and on the outside. So I think that was one thing that Drew Brees is pretty much saying. It's like, hey, well, I can't spin it like I used to. I can't throw it down the field. So this might be time for me to hang it up. And I tell you what, the Saints were missing Taysom Hill, which I thought was a key component to the game.
Yeah.
And maybe if they had Taysom Hill, maybe they could have did a little bit more wildcat. Maybe they could have did a little bit more within that offensive scheme, like Sean Payton likes to use those gadget type of guys. Maybe they could have did a little bit more to keep Tampa Bay off balance. But, that's just, how the cookie crumbles. It's a war of attrition. Tampa Bay was healthy. New Orleans wasn't. I know Tampa Bay had a couple banged up players, especially in Ronald Jones, who actually, I thought, put together a decent game from the running back standpoint.
Yeah, 62 yards on the ground. Yeah. I mean, he even had a big run called back too.
Yeah. So you get 60 plus yards from, your two backs. That's over 100 yards between the two. So yeah. I thought, Tampa Bay did a good job of establishing the running game.
Tampa Bay definitely did. I thought they did great. That the keys to the game. New Orleans opens the game on a big punt return down to the 20. They hold them to a field goal. They return a punt for a touchdown. They end up calling it back because of a block in the back. But New Orleans only gets a field goal out of that. So that kind of set the tone early for the Bucs defense that they really made a statement that they were here to play. And really, I mean, the thing was tied going into halftime. It was 20-20 going into the fourth quarter. And the difference in the game, fourth quarter. Tampa, I mean, that sounds obvious. Obviously, the difference in the game was the fourth quarter, but that's when Tampa was able to really break away from New Orleans here and actually like close this thing out. A couple clutch drives at the end. The last 3 times the Bucs touched the ball, the end of the game they ran the clock out, so I'm not going to count that drive. But the last 3 times they touched the ball before that, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. And what does that tell you? And that's really, you want to talk about, does Tom Brady listen? I watched Peyton Manning come into Jacksonville. My family was season ticket holders for the Jaguars. I've seen Peyton Manning play in person a ton. I've seen him play. I watched him play on TV. Peyton Manning. I've seen Tom Brady play. I've seen Drew Brees play. I've seen a bunch of these quarterbacks play. Peyton Manning's best quarterback I've ever seen in person. But you want to talk about what makes Tom Brady special? It's this: touchdown, field goal, touchdown, all in critical moments, all when you need it badly. Got it done. They were down by a touchdown in the third quarter. They end up winning this game by 10 points. Tom Brady in the clutch. There's nobody better. We saw it on display again against the Saints. And by the way, against a team that had dominated the Bucs in the regular season, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it earlier in the week. It was going to be pretty difficult for a team to beat the same team 3 times in the same season. And I think, Tampa Bay, knowing that they didn't have that added pressure, they kind of felt like, the first week that, the Saints kind of mauled the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tampa Bay was just getting their team together. So I kind of written that loss off for Tampa Bay. Now, the second loss where they got them good, I was like, hey, maybe it's something there. Maybe Tampa Bay, maybe New Orleans is Tampa Bay's kryptonite. But when you have Tom Brady, who's been there, done that, and he raises his level of play in crunch time, and then when you have Devin White on the other side of the ball, on the defense side of the ball, where he's playing, outstanding, I think that's a recipe to kind of win the game, and that's what happened. And Drew Brees, with those interceptions, you can't turn the ball over 3 times and beat Tom Brady. I mean, you kind of want to play one of the most cleanest games you can play. And you give Tom Brady more opportunities than normal, he's going to capitalize. And that's what kind of happened in this particular game.
We saw the Bucs. So the Bucs, they get over that hump with New Orleans, which I thought New Orleans was Tampa Bay's kryptonite. I was not excited about this matchup for Tampa Bay going into the weekend. And I'm pretty surprised they ended up coming out on top, to tell you the truth. But New Orleans really is a mistake-prone game out of the Saints, and that's what you get when you make those kind of mistakes. NFC title game, though. Tampa Bay goes up to Buffalo. Or not Green Bay. Tampa Bay goes up to Green Bay. We see some playoff matchups we saw back in the day with Favre and Sapp. It's going to be fun to see those uniforms on the field together in some cold weather football. But 38-10 was the matchup in the middle of the season. We saw that a couple weeks before that 38-3 loss to the Saints or the Bucs. So much like that 38-3 loss in the Saints didn't really matter in the playoffs. I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in that game because the Bucs jumped on the Packers that day, and it's just sometimes you have an ugly day, and that's what happened to Green Bay.
Yeah, I tell you what, this Tampa Bay team, it really hit its stride later on in the season. It kind of got the continuity together, and I think that's carrying over in the playoffs, as you can see. And they're playing good on both sides of the ball. So, and with Tom Brady at the helm, you're never out. So you always have a chance to kind of win these type of games. And Tom Brady, he expects to win these games. So I think that's the difference that you have when you have Tom Brady at quarterback compared to other quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I think this matchup, though, I think you're going to need to play a little cleaner than you did yesterday if you're Tampa. And I say cleaner in that I thought the offense it came up big in the right moments. But if you're sitting there in the middle of the third quarter next week with 13 points against Green Bay, I don't like your odds. So it's going to have to be a real crisp day out of this Tampa Bay offense. Big days needed from Fournette and Jones next weekend. You're going to need to control that run game, keep Aaron Rodgers off the field a little bit, and you're going to need to see a great defensive effort again, like we saw yesterday. The secondary came up big, which, by the way, has not always been the strength of this defense. But you got to see Levante David, Devin White play a great game, and really these playmakers for Green Bay. They've had them all over the field. Robert Tonyan, Alan Lazard, Aaron Jones. They've had them There's so many weapons that can beat you on that offense, and it's going to be interesting to see how well Tampa Bay matches up. I don't really care about the whole cold weather thing. I think I saw PFT commenter put out a tweet from Pardon My Take. He put out a tweet. He said, "I wonder how Tom Brady's going to handle the cold weather in the playoffs," and people were actually seriously responding to that. So I don't really. That's an old story that they used to talk about when the Buccaneers would go up there back in the day. But I think so many of these guys are from all over the place that doesn't really matter. You gotta like the favorites. You gotta like the home teams next week. Green Bay, Kansas City overall. But I mean, these are two title games where you could see any one of these four teams winning. I mean, this is really up for grabs next weekend.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's definitely a coin toss. Either the Buffalo or Tampa Bay being the underdogs, they can definitely win these games. I wouldn't be shocked if they do come out on victorious with these games this weekend. But once again, I really just think Aaron Rodgers and this Green Bay team is just on the mission. I really think he wants to get another one under his belt. And I think he wants to win a Super Bowl for himself to say, hey, I am Aaron Rodgers. I am, who I say I am. You didn't give me the weapons necessarily that I needed throughout the course of my years. You kind of wasted me under Mike McCartney. So I think he's just going out there and just playing with a chip on his shoulder to a high level that we've probably never seen him play. And Davante Adams, man, how can you guard this guy? You can't guard him one-on-one. You can't guard him with the zone. You can't guard him. You have to double team him. And if you do double team him, you're leaving someone else's open. So I really think Aaron Rodgers is on a mission to kind of get that Lombardi trophy at the end of the year.
How many quarterbacks this is an argument we got to address. The Aaron Rodgers doesn't have weapons argument. Did Aaron Rodgers develop Robert Tonyan out of thin air? Yes. I mean, you hear stories about him working out with George Kittle, but Aaron Rodgers definitely has something to do. The fact that Aaron Rodgers is his quarterback has definitely done something major to do with his emergence. Even Aaron Jones, the running backs, Green Bay's never really had an issue running the ball with Aaron Rodgers there in terms of maybe they get away from running the ball, but they always have decent running backs because so many people have to respect the passing game. But how many teams in the league have a weapon as good as Davante Adams on their roster? You just talked about it. What isn't that exactly what Baltimore needs? Right?
Yeah,
we just talked about that. Not many teams. Davante Adams too. I know early in his career he was a guy that people questioned and he was still developing and everything, but man, that guy just puts on a clinic every single week on how to run routes, and he just makes people look silly out there. And they make it look so easy, the two of them. I love the Rodgers-Adams connection. I think that's by far, we saw Greg Jennings, we see Randall Cobb. That's by far the best of his career, though, is the Adams and Rodgers connection, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely put that up there, probably number one. It really seems like they're in sync no matter what. You don't see too many overthrown balls with those two connections, and if so, Davante Adams might bail Aaron Rodgers out with a great catch, but for the most part, Aaron Rodgers just throws it in the breadbasket, and Davante Adams is right there to grab it. So I'm right there with you in regards to the Davante Adams Aaron Rodgers connection. Probably be one of the best of his career, but just getting back, that took time. They developed that rapport amongst each other. It's not just like, Aaron Rodgers had those guys to come in where they can just plug and play. Like, take Tom Brady where, Antonio Brown. I've never seen, Aaron Rodgers get an Antonio Brown off the streets, Antonio Brown type of caliber player off the streets or through free agency that can come in and help right away. I think everything from a weapons perspective is that something that they develop over time. And I think, that goes to show you, the testament of Aaron Rodgers being a great Hall of Fame quarterback.
I'll give him some credit for the development of Adams too, but I'm saying Adams has developed into one of the premier wide receivers in this league. And I know playing with Rodgers definitely doesn't hurt Adams, but vice versa too, because you just I don't know. There's plenty of guys I've watched. I'm a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. I haven't seen an elite receiver to that degree. I mean, even like one of the best receivers we've seen since Jimmy Smith retired is Allen Robinson. And when you see a guy who's just got that certain level of talent that just pops off the page, and by the way, I meant, I'm talking about in Jacksonville, best receivers in Jacksonville. When you see a guy that just has that talent that pops off the page like that, it's recognizable immediately. And I think like Devontae Adams, just something special, man. I mean, you saw some of those routes he's running where he's just like, it looks like it looks like a high school film almost. He's just leaving guys in the dust. It's unbelievable. So I don't know. Rogers to Adams, definitely a great connection there. I think that the whole weapons thing, they could get him more. They could get him more. They can always do more. But I'm calling BS on that argument a little bit going forward, because that's been a common narrative out there. But how you feel about the championship games in general? Because I really think Tampa's got a shot. They got to play a little better than they did in New Orleans. I think New Orleans helped them out a lot, shot themselves in the foot. I think Green Bay's been playing fantastic. They're the hottest team in football. And then Kansas City, it's going to be tough to overcome Mahomes, but got to think he's going to be back and healthy. And I mean, are we going to see something like 45-42 AFC title game or something?
Yeah, maybe. I think, Mahomes going down in the second half is probably giving this Kansas City team a wake-up call. Just seeing their best player go down and just saying like, hey, we actually could have been bounced out by the Cleveland Browns. No one on the outside really gave the Cleveland Browns a shot. I mean, Vegas really didn't because of that big spread. I think it was like 10 and a half. But Cleveland actually came in and played a good game. I know Patrick Mahomes went down, but I think this Kansas City team actually seeing that and actually winning the game through that, I think they're going to come out hitting on all cylinders. So I give the edge to Kansas City in that game. And, just going back, talking about that Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams connection and, just playing in Lambeau Field, just the narrative surrounding Aaron Rodgers and, drafting a quarterback and just like you said, the weapons argument, just having all of that surround Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to lean towards Green Bay in that game. So I'm rolling with the two home teams.
Yeah. I think the two home teams it's gonna be tough for either one of those teams to win, but I'm not sure who I like just yet. I gotta think on it a little more, but I'm telling you, if you told me the Bills and Bucks both won, wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. I guess I feel like the Bucks have a better shot than the Bills. So if I had to pick one upset, I'd go with Tampa Bay over Green Bay on that. But how about Tampa Bay being the first team to ever maybe play in their home stadium for Super Bowl? That would be a great story.
That would be a great story. Not only that would be a great story, but Tom Brady leading this team to the Super Bowl in his first year. So yeah. I think if Tampa Bay somehow, some way upsets Green Bay, I think moving forward, the storylines and the narrative surrounding the Super Bowl game, it's just going to be a lot to talk about. So I will be excited about that.
Yeah, and there's something too about I saw some meme out there. I forget. It was like they tied it into one of the Marvel movies. I forget exactly what it was, but it basically had Buffalo Bills fans were all celebrating, and Tom Brady's like, "You thought you could escape me?" Like he's Tom Brady's still out there potentially haunting the Buffalo Bills. If you get a Bills Bucks Super Bowl, that would be a really fun storyline too.
Yeah, it really would.
Won't be a shortage of storylines no matter which direction we go here. I'm pretty fired up for the championship games. I'll tell you what, most years you got one championship game that's usually better, like significantly better than the other. These are both A+ matchups. I can't wait to watch it. Looking forward to see, especially I love the cold weather settings in January. Love them. So, Rob, you got any final thoughts before we finish this thing out?
No, once again, I'm just excited about these matchups that we're going to have for these conference championships. But just like you said, Nick, if Tampa Bay goes on to win and kind of go to the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be more surprised that the Bills knocked off the Chiefs than Tampa Bay knocking off Green Bay.
Yep. All right, man. Well, we will send it out. Good episode on the NFL Divisional Playoff recap. This has been American Football Stories. We'll send it out with our word from our sponsor, Coach Paint.
American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly telestrate video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today.
Thank you for listening to American Football Stories podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, American Football Stories. We are working to grow our network on YouTube and we'd love to have you subscribe. You can find us also on Apple Podcasts, on Twitter, at American FB Story, and on our website, AmericanFootballStories.com. I am Robert Parker. My co-host is Nick Knudsen. This has been another episode of American Football Stories.